Carolyn Dube here. What's the play for today? Today I'm playing around in my art journal and I'm going to be using a color I don't usually use, and that's brown. But you'll see how that comes into play about the middle of the art journal page. And you're also going to see a point where there's no turning back. When there's a decision that I make, or at least it feels like when I make it, there's no going back from that point. Now, of course, along the way, you're going to see things go as planned and not planned, but that's a typical art journal page. Come join me for some fun. I'm going to start out with some highly efficient stenciling on my gel press plate. And what that's really code for is the easy way, the lazy way to do this. I've got paint in a jar here, and whenever I've got that, I can give that jar a shake so that I get a bunch of paint in the lid, so I can just dip my brayer right in there. Saves me a step for having to get the paint onto the gel plate, and I can just brayer it right on top of this stencil. I'm feeling impatient, so I'm going quickly, and I'm being generous with the amount of paint that I'm using. Now, this stencil is from StencilGirl Products. It's by Lizzie Main, and this is one of the fastest ways to stencil an entire stencil at once and get multiple prints off of it. Because I was so generous with the paint, I was able to put it on there twice. But now, let's clean off the stencil and, well, maybe I should have put a piece of paper on there instead of just used my hand. But what I'm doing is simply blotting off any excess paint that's on the stencil to add to the background. And I will have a complete supply list for you down below this video and also over on the blog at acolorfuljourney.com. This is one of my favorite ways to pull off any excess paint that's on a stencil. Basically what you just saw is me cleaning off the stencil. And of course, if you'd like it cleaner, you just toss it in some water. Well, let's get some color on this thing now. I'm going to start out with a very careful and precise application of yellow paint here. And I hope you can tell by the sound in my voice, this isn't careful, it isn't precise. It's just a lot of fun to kind of squirt the paint directly on the page and then brayer it around, see where it goes. If you're wondering if I have a great big grand plan for what I'm doing here, yes and no. You see, the plan has already been used up. It was that background and adding some color. That's as big as my plan was. So now I'm just seeing where it takes me. Wherever one color is good, to me, more colors are better. So I'm going to add a few more here. For those of you curious, this journal that I'm working in is a vintage ledger. I think I got it off of eBay. I just kind of keep my eyes out for them and run across them. I love working in these things, and I'll work directly on the page. I'm just in the mood to sprinkle and splatter paint, so I am just going to drizzle and dribble the paint directly here onto the page and then brayer it around. And this is when I got a real surprise. I wanted to use this paper bag on this page, and I really wasn't expecting that because this bag is brown. And brown is not one of my favorite colors to use, but there was just something about this that was calling to me today, so I'm going to trust that and use it. Now you might wonder where exactly I got this. Well, shockingly, from the Nouveau Gallery in New York from a trip 3-4 years ago. Yes, I've hung onto the bag from when I bought postcards that long. And it's a good thing because it was just what I needed for this art journal page. There was one painting in their collection that just left me awestruck, and that was Klimt's Woman in Gold. I mean, it's just an incredible piece of art. If you ever get a chance to see it, I highly recommend it. Now, once I had this glued down, I wanted to put a tag next to it. And I have some gel printed tags here, and you can actually see how I made them using some trash. I'll have the link down below for you for the video to check all that out. But as I was going through, I couldn't decide which of the orange tags to use, or where exactly I wanted to put it. The overthinking had begun for me here. I mean, this is just simply a tag, right? I can just stick it anywhere. Why does it feel like such a big decision? So I decided to really double down on this and make a commitment. That is some double-sided tape that I've got there. I am going to pick where it goes, and then I am simply going to push it down. Because once I've pushed it down, it's a whole lot harder to remove without ripping up the page. You're probably thinking, this isn't that dramatic. But I gotta tell you, in my head, it really did feel like there is no turning back once I've stuck that tag on there. I wanted to add a word onto this next, so I started digging around in my bowl of words here. Most of these are stenciled words on tissue paper, and they're mostly from my feelings and emotions stencils, so it's just a collection of them ready to go anytime I need a word. One of the perks of having a bowl of words like this is I get to just kind of go through it and see which ones call to me, which ones feel like they fit or belong on the page. And the word respect for me was a huge one to put on here. Absolutely, I respect the artist. I respect Klimt. His work is incredible. But the respect here is actually for Ronald S. Lauder. He's the guy who bought the painting for a very pretty penny, might I add, and then turned around and allowed the public to see it. I really appreciate, especially for these very well-known famous pieces of art, collectors who allow the public to see it. And if I lived in New York City, I think I'd want to go and see that Woman in Gold painting every single day. It was that incredible piece. So now what I'm doing is gluing down a piece of the edge trim off of some old linens that I had. They had some of the most wonderful edging on those things, so that'll add a nice little touch here to that paper bag. Over on the side of the counter, there's a scrap of that linen, and it's just the perfect size to add a little something here in the corner. So rather than figuring out where I want to put it or store it, I'm just going to glue it right here onto the page. If you've watched many of my videos, you may know where this next leftover is coming from. This is from a couple videos back, and this is actually scraps from some handmade paper, and I'll have the video linked for you down below. And by the way, if you aren't subscribed to my channel and watching some of my other videos, if you're still watching this one now, you're probably enjoying it, so why not hit that subscribe button? That way you'll know as soon as I've got a new video out. Little did I know that this page would be all about using up some stuff that I've had for a long time and even something that I've been hoarding. Now the one thing was that paper bag, because I'd had that forever. The next thing is this little rubber stamped license plate. I've cut that out and had that floating around for what feels like ages, so I'm using that up. And then this is the treasured piece of hoarded material. This is some old film strip, and you can't see exactly what it is. It's way too small. It's kind of like you need a projector to do it, but I think it'll look just perfect on the page there. So I'm going to tape it down using some double-sided tape here with this ATG gun, and I'm just going to offer a little common sense advice for you is maybe don't apply the tape right there on the page like that because, yeah, I did get it onto that piece of film strip, so it'll stick down well. But there is actually some of that adhesive that's on the page. So maybe next time I'll do that over on the counter instead of on top of the actual art journal page. Another hoarded something that I'm going to use here are some game pieces. These are individual letters from some game from who knows what. I just love the little letter squares, so I hung onto those. And so I dug out all the letters to spell Adele. Not after the singer, even though she does have an amazing voice. This is actually after the Woman in Gold. The last thing that I want to add onto here is a little bit of Scribble journaling. But since things are still a little damp with the gel medium where I want to put it, I'm going to use a Stabilo pencil. Because wet paint, wet gel medium is extremely hard on pens. That's probably not a shocker to you. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. If you've been enjoying this fun, I'd so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And of course, if you want to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know as soon as a new one's out. And of course, if you don't want the fun to end, you can find more of it over on the website at acolorfuljourney.com. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.